And if you're not following along, I mean, if you're not trying to do your own editing as you go, then it doesn't matter too much. Although you might want to be logged in, you might want to be connected to Wi-Fi so that you could go to a website as needed. Do you have suggestions for people who are where you would like them to be if they're not doing their own WordPress site? Because I know we have quite a few here who are not trying to edit as they go.
Well, I think if you don't have your own WordPress site or a self-hosted WordPress site on your own hosting, doing what we're going to do today on WordPress.com and creating a throwaway site and something that you can get going just for today is great, because the way you add content in either WordPress format is very consistent. So what you're doing, what you would be playing with on WordPress.com is relevant to what you would be doing on your website with self-hosted WordPress. Today our focus is content, getting some pictures and getting some text up there. I'll get into it a little more detail. Working with posts and pages. And that would be a great way to play around with something at the same time, or just relax and watch, because you'll soak in so much knowledge and you'll leave this room in an hour knowing much more and being much more familiar with it than when you came in. Because that works too.
Question about the text. I've heard that it's not a good idea to try to copy and paste out of Microsoft Word into Blogger. Is that correct?
I'll touch on that a little bit. But yeah, there are some issues with all the formatting. Microsoft stuffs all this formatting detail into making that text look a certain way, and then it gets dumped into WordPress, and I'll work on that.
I actually use the other one, the Open Office thing. Is that the same problem?
It's similar. It's not as bad. I use LibreOffice, which is, and Google Docs, which is, LibreOffice is, it's called a fork. It's the
Called a what?
A fork.
Oh.
They took a fork in the road. So they started with OpenOffice and they went this way with LibreOffice. So it's very much like OpenOffice.
Well, I haven't learned
And that's-
Google Docs yet. So.
I'll point that out. No, that's fine. I'll point that out for that whole broad spectrum, the way different people use text documents.
But just coming from someone who uses Word all the time, don't create a fear level around that. Just figure out there's a really simple way that you can paste without any formatting. So there's a simple workaround.
And if I start to get in a hurry, because sometimes I get all excited in a hurry and I want to get through a certain point by the end of this, just signal to me when we get to that point when I'm pasting in some content, and I'll be sure to cover it.
On the same topic, there's lots of Macs here, the text edit. Is it better to write using the text edit to paste in, or as opposed to Word?
I'm totally agnostic. I'm a Linux user.
Okay.
So it will work for all of these. All this WordPress software is up through a browser. It's up on servers in the cloud, and it doesn't matter if you're coming at it on a Mac or Windows or Linux, or what flavor of Linux, or and what text editor you're using.
Text is on the Mac, it'll be.
Be better than Word to compose your things. That's the question.
But I don't know. But
Yeah.
it'll all.
Okay.
There might be some issues, and we'll find out as we go.
WordPress has a great way of just erasing all formatting. So, you know, it's really easy. You don't have to create any fear about that. If Word is what you're comfortable working in, then, you know, just learn how to paste it in without formatting, or paste it in and then erase the formatting. It's easy.
And that will probably be hard to see in the video, if you go back and watch the video, and that probably will be a screencast. And if there's any screencast kind of things you want to see, either put it on that blog post or that comment sheet, or after the class, write something down. And because as I go along, I might forget specifics. And I'll try to get those done first.
Any other questions? Jason, are you going to be doing, where'd Jason go? Jason, are you going to be trying to do the streaming thing? Sure. You're not going to do the streaming thing? Okay. Okay, so Steve, we probably need to get going. If you're rolling? Okay. So I'd like to officially welcome everyone to the WordPress class. I want to remind you that we are recording today's session, and so you've had a chance to sign in. I'm trusting that everybody has signed in, which says that you're okay with us recording this class. We don't expect that we'll be putting a camera in anyone's face, but you never know. So, and this is the second week of our getting started in WordPress to build your own website. There's a lot of people in the room. There were a lot of people last week, and I just want to appreciate everyone for doing all you've already done to make this class run smoothly. I also want to just thank Annette and her husband Randy for just pulling out the stops to create a very organized class with an awful lot of outside of class support. So if you think about it, this is pretty amazing, the amount of support that you get for either for free if you're an Officexpats member, or for $10 a session if you're not. And Annette is using this class to kind of plan for other classes and plan for other advanced WordPress classes. So hopefully there will be lots more of the same. So I think that's all I need to cover right now. So Annette, why don't you take it away?
Okay, thanks everybody. Everybody's set up. Today we're talking content. Last week we got you to a WordPress install or creating a WordPress.com website, and you should be at the point of being logged into your dashboard. And today's all about content. Next week we're going to look at themes. Oops. There we go. Themes. So last week I used the analogy of Legos. So what we're working on today is building up some of that house. We got the framing of the house done with WordPress, and today we're going to add some content which starts to build out the house. Next week we'll change the design of the house, the architectural plan and the layout, and the color of the paint and the shingles and that sort of stuff with the themes. And today, but until you get some content, there's not a whole lot to do once you start playing with themes and getting that design. So today we'll stuff in some content. Next week we'll put in the design and make it look a little bit, make your house yellow and the other person's house red. Now, content can be written words. We have at least one writer in this group. And great, you can write. You have lots of written content. Search engines eat that stuff up. Internet's a great place to showcase your written work. If you have products, there's at least one retail shop owner here. You have products, you want some description there. Google will index all that. It will get your details of your products. It'll get it in the search engine. If you're somewhere in between, a service business, professional services, design, you're going to still have some written descriptions. I will give you some tips on how to make that work well for readability, the user experience, and how to also use images. We're going to do a little bit of both. When you have all images, there's at least one photographer in the group and a graphic designer, so if you're more image-oriented, you still want some text. So when you have just images to your site, Google doesn't have anything to index. You want some words, you want some text. So the photographer and the artist, who's here somewhere, it's really important to consider your text elements. We can also, I won't do it today, but putting content into your site also includes putting video, embedding YouTube videos. It can be embedding Vimeo videos. And I have one, but I warn against putting Flash into your website because it's not indexed by Google. It does not work on iPads. It does not work on iPhones. And it's just something not to do. Your content is all wrapped up in this little secret package. So the anatomy of a basic WordPress layout. I'll be using some of these terms. Up at the very top, usually horizontal across the top, consistent on every page, is called the header. I'll use that word a lot. We'll put your logo image in header. Right now we're sitting on WordPress sites that are using the default theme that's called 2011. We'll stick a logo in the header, so it's at the top. The footer's at the very bottom. It can often be used for your latest post, contact me, all sorts of things. But it's a consistent strip along the bottom that appears generally on every page. The sidebar, you don't have to have, it's common on a lot of themes, can hold more content. But the sidebar is off to the side. off and to the right, but you can move it to the left. And then the content area is the area where it changes per page or per post, and that's going to vary. So the words just to get familiar with are header, footer, sidebar, and then the content area. We're going to look at pages versus posts. I'm going to start with pages because I did a survey before this class, and more people had, say, professional sites that they wanted to put about build using WordPress than they wanted to do for a blog. And I'll hold off on the details between pages and posts. Just know that there are two, and we're going to start with pages. So now one of the things that I think the first thing we're going to do as we start to work with our site is put an image into the header that's your logo. Right now we're all sitting on some really boring looking websites, and I have to, excuse me while I find my right tab. We have, here it is. Okay, so I don't know if I hit upload. Let's hit it again because I was talking. Okay, I hadn't hit upload. So I made this. It's like icon finder gave me the little house circle thing, and I put some text and some lines. And I'm going to, it asked me if I want to crop and publish. I'm just going to skip cropping. It looks right. Publish image as is.
He doesn't crop the original, he crops just what he's uploaded. So it's still
Yes.
being stored on there.
It's not going to, it crops it for what's stored up there. It's not going to change the image on your hard drive. So I'm going to refresh. Oh, now it's got my text and my bigger image. I'm just going to go with that. So just, because I've gone through it twice, I'll say, I think I've shown this enough. I'll do a screencast of it, and we can kind of move along and answer, before we move along, answer questions. Is anybody getting images up there?
If you wanted your text that's up above to be like in your image, in the big bar, that's more?
One is me logged into WordPress, and one is me looking at the site itself. So one is me logged into WordPress using the WordPress user interface. What's a dashboard and controls and settings in edit mode. And the other way is just looking at the website. You're still logged in. You get this little bar up here along the top because you're logged in.
So is that the same as the view page, as if you click on view page?
It is. It's very much like the view page. I tend to keep two tabs open and move back and forth. If you naturally have one and like to view page, and then you can go backwards.
So you just have to click the back button.
back button.
If you're only using one tab, then you just have to keep clicking back to get back to edit mode.
So I'll do that here. So I made a change. Let's say I made that change. I go to visit site. I visit the site. This is how people see it. And I say, okay, now I'm going to go back and make some other changes. I hit the back arrow.
And did you do that by logging in twice, so that you just...
Once you're logged in, it should keep you logged in and stay that way on that browser. Now, if I opened up, I'm working in Chrome, if I opened up Firefox or some totally different browser, it wouldn't have me logged in. It's called a browser session. It's tied to you working on the browser.
So how do you have your second one up at the same time without logging in again?
The second,
Your second tab?
I don't have to. It keeps me logged in. So it's all Chrome. It's all, everything I'm doing is within Chrome, and Chrome knows I'm logged in. My browser is my application. And I can go between those two tabs without logging in or logging out. And it'll keep my
So
login.
there's nothing you have to do to get two tabs, it happens without you asking.
You have to say open.
You have to say
Oh.
open.
Oh, to start a second tab.
So open up, it shall go to site as if you go to a site. Do the visit site, and then you run through.
Oh, or over here. Depending on the browser you use, there should be a way to open another tab.